Hello and welcome. We are going to wait just a couple minutes for everybody to get logged in. My name is Candice Gliotto and I'm here with Rick Modine, a wall educator, and we'll get started in just a couple minutes. While we're waiting, if you're logging on, go ahead and pop in the chat and tell us where you're from and what you do.
So I see we got New York, North Carolina, Chicago, Maryland. Welcome to the group, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, great mix. All right, well, let's get started. So my name is Candice Gliotto. I am a lead educator and coach for Qnity. Joining me today is Rick Modine, barbershop owner and educator for Wall. Rick, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody that might not know you a little bit about you?
What's up, everyone? Like she said, my name is Rick Modine, aka the People's Barber. I've been a barbershop owner for this year, actually made 13 years, been a barber for 14 years, been an international wall educator now for 9 years. Pretty recent, last year actually became, is it last year or the year before, a best-selling author on Amazon as well. So my job here, guys, today is along with, is to kind of share some information with you guys that can help you increase your everyday ticket. I just so happen to be the most expensive barber in my city, and my books are full. So don't think just because you're going to raise your prices, you're going to lose customers. We're going to go over all that information today. So make sure to stay tuned, stick through the entire webinar because we've got some great information for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so before we get to all that stuff, I'm just going to share with you a little bit about Qnity. So Qnity provides tools, coaching, and education for small business owners. And our purpose is to help these small business owners become prosperous. We define that as being able to do what you love, make more money, and have a life. And now sometimes one of these things might be more important than the other, but I think we could all agree that if we had all these three elements, that we would be genuinely prosperous. So write in the chat, is one of these the most important to you right now? How about you, Rick? What's most important to you right now?
Like you said, they all hold their value. But personally, for me, I would say in life enjoyment. That is probably the top priority for me currently.
Yeah, same here. And the reality is that if we have all three of these elements, we do enjoy life. So that's awesome. Now, another thing is our vision. Our vision is unity, and it's all about living in the middle. And when it comes to having that unity, there's one word that changes everything, which is and, as opposed to or. So too often we hear people think that they can be a great artist or an amazing service provider or a great business person. And the reality is that you can be both. And it's all about living in the middle in several areas when it comes to profit and people, business and creative, and your head and your heart. So, Rick, do you think you're pretty good at living in the middle?
It took probably a lot of heartache and hardships. And unfortunately, when I was doing it, classes like this weren't readily available. So it took more than the average. But yes, currently, I would say I am at peace with all of this.
That's awesome. So it's all about using intention to really strive for the middle. Now, our approach is a right brain approach to get left brain results. So who's familiar with right brain and left brain? Rick, do you know about right brain and left brain?
Yes.
Okay, so our right brain is our creative, intuitive, visual side of our brain, and our left brain is our more analytical and numerical side of our brain. Now, go ahead and put in the chat, and Rick, you share with me too. Are you more right-brained or are you more left-brained?
I'd probably go with right brain because I like always thinking outside the box. My glass is always halfway full versus empty. So I'm always seeing the positive side of life and of hardships.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's really common in our industry because it's a creative industry, for us to kind of lean towards the right side here. But we really want to strive for unity between left and right brain because that's going to help us grow our business. Now, what I'm going to introduce to you today is a structure for growing your sales. And oftentimes when we talk about structures, we can get confused and start to feel, constrained or limited. But the reality is that structure actually creates freedom for us. And that's what I'm going to introduce to you today, which is a simple and visual structure for driving sales called two-number growth. Now, with two-number growth, we focus on just two primary KPIs: client count and average ticket. Today, we're going to be focusing more on average ticket, but we are going to review a little bit about these two KPIs. So when we look at this dashboard and we see all of these bells and whistles and indicators, there's a lot of really useful information for being able to tell what's going on in this car. And put this in the chat, what do you think the two most important indicators on this dashboard are? Go ahead, I'll give you a couple minutes or a couple seconds. Throw in the chat. What do you think the two most important elements of this dashboard are? Let's see.
While you guys are typing that information in, just a quick break. I forgot to mention earlier, as part of us teaming up with Qnity and Booksy and Wall, we at Wall are going to be giving away a free magic clip. That's right. At the end of this seminar, we will ask you to do something to make sure you guys stay on tune with us, right? And then we will be giving away one free cordless magic clip. So make sure to stay tuned, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for saying that. So I see a lot of things coming in the chat here, and speed and gas. Those are the two most important things on this dashboard. Speed and gas. That's all we need to be able to drive forward. Now, the speed and gas of our sales is client count and average ticket. Client count is the number of times that the clients come into the business and spend money. You could also look at this as the number of transactions. Average ticket, which we're going to be focusing on today, is the average amount of money that the client spends when they come into the business. This includes money spent on services and products. We're looking at the entire purchase. Now, what we're going to focus on is how we can take action to drive growth in both client count and average ticket. Before we do that, let's do a quick review of the Qnity dashboard. So there are ways that we can grow in client count and average ticket, and I have them right here. Client count, referrals, retention, and rebooking. If you joined us in the last webinar, we took a deep dive into all three of these drivers. Today, we're going to be focusing on average ticket drivers: products, add-ons, and pricing. Now, when it comes to client count, the action that we take today will give us results in the future. When it comes to average ticket, the action that we take today gives us results today. And that's one of my favorite things about this industry is you can wake up in the morning and decide to give yourself a raise. I bet you none of your friends that are in other industries can say that. And it's all about having intention and taking action so that we can drive growth today. Now, let's talk a little bit about the word sales. How does it make you feel? Or what do you think when you hear the word sales? Rick, tell me, what do you think when you hear the word sales?
Car salesman.
That's one of the most common answers we get to this.
Yeah, so I just recently bought a new vehicle last week, and man, And I did everything online because I didn't feel like going into a dealership. So I just did everything online, text messaging, email, stuff like that. And it was way easier, but still you get some of the pushy people. And I think that's the negativity towards sales. As soon as you hear sales, you hear corny, pushy, hardcore people.
Yeah, yeah. And you're not alone. A lot of people actually bring up that car salesman. And there are car salesmen that are not pushy salesmen, that are great salesmen.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
unfortunately, we get a little bit of anxiety around sales because we think of that guy. Well, the reality is that we can sell ourselves without losing ourselves. It is possible. And all we have to do is stay focused and come from a place of service. Because remember, if you started a business or if you're working in a business, sales is really how we grow that. It's what we do. And nothing happens until we do make a sale. And how do we make those sales? Well, we focus on our drivers. The drivers are going to create growth in both our client count and our average ticket. Now, before we take a deep dive into average ticket, let's address some myths that are pretty common when it comes to sales. So myth number one, sell is a 4-letter word, kind of like we just talked about. Gives people kind of a feeling that they're not always comfortable with, but there's a lot of other words that we can look at so that we can approach sales from a different perspective. A couple of them are serve, educate, move, support, and advise. Rick, when your customers come into your shop, what are they looking for from you?
Number one, the service that they booked, obviously. Number two, I think it's more of the advice, the serve, and the educate. Because I serve them by the haircut I do. I advise them and educate them with the product that I use to style their hair. And then in return, they end up buying. Most, if I have to say, like I read something online one time, and I think it said most people in it was actually barbershops. It said most men say they don't buy a product in the barbershop simply because they're not asked.
Exactly.
I'm like, whoa, really? You know what? I'll just start asking. So after I style my customer's hair, I was like, hey, I just used this flawless pomade, and would you like a can? And if they say no, okay, great. See you in 2 weeks.
Exactly. Our clients are there for us to do these things for them. And if we don't, then we're not really doing our job. So remember this, if you have anxiety around sales, I love this quote because it's so true. People don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy. I know anytime I go to a makeup store or clothing store, I really don't want that pushy salesman guy, but man, am I happy walking out with that bag of new stuff. I'm excited. We can create that experience for our clients so that they can leave with that happy feeling with their bag or with the service that they just received without feeling like they experienced the pushy salesman we were addressing earlier. Now, myth number 2 is you have to be pushy to sell. Yeah, well, we talked about that. You don't need to be pushy to be great in sales. You need to be clear. And how do we get more clear? Well, we get rid of the anxiety that comes with too many choices. Decision anxiety is real. Have you ever sat down and looked at a menu that was too big and just felt completely overwhelmed, or walked into a store that had too many items and just said, I think I'm just going to leave? Do you have decision anxiety, Rick?
No.
You don't?
When I make up my mind, like it's done, I'm gonna do it, and it don't matter who tells me no.
Well, that's good, but not everybody's like you. Some people get overwhelmed really easily, and it could be something as simple as looking at a service menu or looking at, a big shelf full of products. So if we can reduce the amount of choices that our customer has to make, we're going to probably be more successful in selling a product or a service. And really, we have so many choices to make in our everyday lives, whether it's when we're purchasing or when we're just making it through our day, we get overwhelmed. And so if we can make that a more simple experience for them, we're going to be more successful. Now, myth number 3, you have to be outgoing. This is a big one. A lot of people think that you have to be very extroverted to sell. Now, tell me, Are you more introverted or more extroverted? Put it in the chat. And Rick, you tell me, are you more introverted or extroverted?
I think I'm in the center. That center dot you got there. I think that's a little bit of me.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And a lot of people think that they might be too introverted to be great at sales. But just like Rick just said, it's all about being right in the middle. If you can get to the middle, which we call an ambivert, you're going to be highly successful in sales, because you don't want to overdo it and come off like that pushy sales guy we were talking about earlier. And we don't want to hold back too much to where we're not educating and serving and advising. Now, myth number 4, it's not your job. Well, whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, which is a term that we use at Qnity to describe a person who runs a business within a business, growing that business means we have to make sales, and it really just is our job. It's as simple as that. We just have to come at it from a place of service, because service isn't something that we do, it's something that we are. You just have to be real, and you have to be yourself, and then you'll be successful. Now, Rick and I are going to dive real deep into each one of the 3 drivers, and I'm going to start with why, with products. Why are product sales important? And if you have some ideas of why, throw them in the chat. And Rick, if there's something that I'm not saying that you have in mind, just shout it out to me. So why is it important for us as service providers? Well, one, it builds retention, because when we are a one-stop shop for our client to come and get a service and product, we're more likely to see them come back. 2, it allows the guest to duplicate the look at home. You can't give somebody an amazing new haircut and then expect them to go home and use, water or nothing to create that look at home. For the business, it's important because it increases our retail revenue, it increases our profit, and it helps us retain our guests. But why is it important for the guest? Well, it makes it simple to recreate that look at home, and it helps them keep their hair more manageable. Anything you want to add to that, Rick?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I recently had a client who, first-time customer in my hair, got a side part and told me that he was looking for a new barber, heard some good things, came to me, and that every barber stylist he's ever had, that the hair always sticks up. And I said, okay, so let me help you out with that. So his hair was long enough to lay down, but I gave him a comb and I said, can you comb it for me? And he did. And he's like, you see that? It always sticks up. I don't matter how much gel or pomade or hairspray I put, it always sticks up. I said, okay. Then gave him a mirror and I said, now look at this. I said, you see how your hair swirls right here? I said, you're fighting its natural growth. You're trying to comb it in one direction when it naturally wants to go in another direction. I said, look at this. I took the comb and I combed it in this direction. It laid down flat. He said, whoa, no one's ever taught me that. And I said, yeah, sometimes it's the simple things. I said, but you being my new customer, I want to make sure that you leave here satisfied. And if that one little thing satisfied you, then great. And he's like, yeah, you're my barber for life now, because I spent 1 minute to show him how to comb his hair right.
Exactly. So that goes to show that products can build retention, because he said, you're my barber for life now. Clearly, he bought the product, right? And it's right, because you served him and you educated him. You didn't just say, here, take this, and not give him a reason why. So it really increased the connection that you had with that customer in that moment. So this is a Qnity tool called the 9-Grid. And it's a brainstorming tool. And in this case, what I've done here is I wrote in the middle products. And in the outer squares, I've identified some ways that you can grow your product sales. Now, Rick and I had a little meeting before this to go through some of the best practices that we both use in our salon and barbershop. And one of the things that we loved was that we have so much in common, even though we have pretty different sides of the industry. So Rick's going to take us through this 9-Grid and just kind of elaborate on some of these points. Go for it.
Yeah, so we'll start in the upper left-hand corner. Look up product history before appointment. So in the Booksy app, it actually, I'm able to put some notes in there. So with that being said, before my customer comes in, I check who my next customer is, look at the history notes and see, oh, last time they bought, 3 haircuts ago, they bought some pomade. okay, they're probably coming up for a new can now. So I'm probably going to talk to them a little bit about that now. Another thing is to hand the guest the bottle after you apply. This is something that I really do pretty often. I open it up and I kind of turn them, because as a barber, we face them away from the mirror. Well, as I apply the product, I kind of turn them towards the mirror so they can see. I put the can and I put it right there in front of them. Sometimes I give it to them. This is the easiest way to do. Sometimes I just set it right there in front of them so they know where it's coming from, and then apply their hair and style it. So now they know exactly where it's coming from, what product I used.
And a lot of people are really, really curious about what ingredients are in their products. So they might not ask you that, or you might not be able to rattle off every single thing that's in there, but it's really good for them to be able to take a closer look at the ingredients and to touch and feel and interact with the product. Because
Very
right
true.
now, at that point in the service, the product's in your hands, not theirs. So they're not getting to see how it feels and smells.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then always talk products in the consultation. That is something that I always ask, even new customers, regular customers. Hey, did you switch up anything, the product you use? Oh yeah, I went to gel this time. Oh yeah, really? Why is that? Oh, because I noticed the pomade was sweating out because I work outside, or something to that effect. So then I'm trying to re-emphasize. Okay, now he wants some gel. Let me try to get this gel product to use in him. Sometimes it's beard oil. They switch the brand or whatnot. So
Absolutely.
another thing is, don't be shy. The worst they can say is no. And like I said earlier, I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the service, when I say, hey, did you want to cop another one of these cans of pomade? Because I noticed you hadn't got one in 3 haircuts. Oh, I got about a week left. I'll be back next week. Okay, cool, no worries. Or no, you know what? Not this time. Okay, thank you. I mean, I still made money off them with the service that I provided. Now, had I sold the product, yeah, it'd be an extra boost, but don't sweat the no. I mean, I hear no probably 15 times a day. Okay, cool, no worries.
Yeah.
That way you don't feel, because the minute they say, here's what we think of when we think of a natural salesperson. No, well, sir, did you know that? Or man, could I? What about And they tell me no. I was like, okay, cool. I'm not sweating it. It's we're done by it.
Absolutely. And just to jump back, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
To jump back into the consultation thing, one of the things that I tell my team all the time when it comes to products is there's this bad habit that I see sometimes on the salon floor, where they'll finish they'll go through the service, do the consultation, the cut, the color, whatever the service is, and then they'll take off the drape and they'll walk their client up to the product shelf and say, do you want any products? Well, the client doesn't really care, because like Rick was just saying, the worst they can say is no. But to the client, it might feel like, oh, here's the part where they walk me up to the shelves and they show me the products, and then I say no, and then I go pay, and then I leave. If you're talking about the products in the consultation, you're really connecting with what the guest needs are, like the guy that you had that had his hair sticking up in the back. So in the salon industry, we talk about color or shine. Okay, how did you feel about the shine last time? Did it last? Okay, what kind of products are you using? Today I'm going to show you a product that will keep that color shiny longer, so that it doesn't feel dull by the time you come back, like you were saying today. So you're connecting it to something that they specifically ask you for help with, so it doesn't feel like you're pushing it on them at the end of the service.
So true. So next one is, don't assume they aren't up for the spend. Just most people are like, oh, they probably don't want to buy this from me today. Don't assume that, because like I said earlier, and I'm sure salons is very similar. Most people don't buy simply because they're not asked. So just always ask. I always, the pastor of my church always says, make an ask of yourself. And it's
Absolutely.
just, there's nothing wrong with that. Just because the worst they can say is no. Be curious. What is their routine now? Do they need a change? And like I said earlier, with the product in the consultation, when we talk to them about products, then we know, okay, they're not using pomade no more. They're not using mousse no more. They started going towards hairspray, So then we go, okay, so let me use some hairspray in their hair, or let me use mousse and hairspray, and then I can try to get them back on and tell them why both products work together, for the benefit of their hairstyle.
Yeah. Or it creates an opportunity for them to create more than one look at home.
Exactly. Be
Hmm.
an expert, know your products inside and out. This is probably one of the hardest things to do simply because a lot of the times we get questions by people, oh, is it what's did they test, is it animal tested? You know, that people, some people ask, does it have any, especially in the men's product, does it alcohol involved in it? Does it have any oils in it? What are they, natural oils? You know, so
Hmm.
these are some of the things that when you get a new product or any product in the shelves, just make sure you understand and know a little bit about it. Yes, it's got these natural oils. It's all, you know, naturally made. No, it's not animal tested. You know, just is it made here in the U.S.? Some people want to know that. Is it U.S. made? You know, things like that. So just be familiarized with that. Not only the firmness of it, the holdness of it, the scent of it, but the actual ingredients of it. Sometimes customers want a big insight on that as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
the last thing is change it up and try something new. If everything we just mentioned, you're saying, you know what, Rick, I've already done all that. Okay, here's the part that you probably didn't try. Change it up and try something new, and it's not going to be very difficult. You know, if you're used to trying to push ABC, maybe talk to them about one, two, three. You know, if you're always talking to them about, you know, the mousse and the hairspray and this, well, maybe talk to them about a deep conditioner in their hair. Maybe talk to them about possibly, you see they're starting to grow some facial hair. Hey, did you want to go ahead and maybe get some beard oil? I know beard oil will help with the growth, you know, minor things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but the number one reason why we lose clients is because a client wanted something new. Now, they're going to go to another barbershop or another salon, and whatever that new thing is most likely something that we were able to provide for them, whether it's a product or a service. It's just about asking those questions and encouraging change, because sometimes people don't realize they want it. And then once they do, they don't realize they can get it from us. So it's our job to stay curious and to stay confident about the products that we're selling and to stay passionate about it. You can't sell something that you don't feel confident and passionate about. So do whatever it takes to get yourself to a point where you are confident and passionate about the products that you sell in your salon or barbershop. That way you are prepared to educate and serve your clients in the way that they need to be served. All right. So now we're going to move on to our next driver, which is add-ons. So why are add-ons important? Well, for the service provider, it's pretty obvious, right? It helps us earn more money. It increases our average ticket, and it helps us become more valuable to your guests. Like I was just saying about how we need to offer changes and offer new things to our clients. It makes us look like experts when we offer new things, especially in that moment. Um, for the business, it keeps the guest business all in one service. So if you work at a salon that has a spa in it, or if you work at a barbershop that also does or a salon that also has barbering, like it helps keep all of the services in one business, which makes the business more successful. It creates more loyal guests too. Now, for the guest, it's convenient because they're receiving all of their services in one place, but also they feel fully taken care of. They don't have to jump around. So let's go through some best practices for add-ons. So I'll let you get us started, Rick.
All
Go
right.
for it.
So here are some of the add-ons that can help any barber or stylist, right? Create an add-on menu. This would be something like on my Booksy app, for instance, I've got my regular haircut, you know, things like that. And then on the bottom, it says other services. This could be the mini facial, the eyebrows, the nose wax, the beard trim, black mask. These can be minor little things like that that may only take us, you know, 15, 20 minutes, but can probably still make us just as much as the service that we provided. So
Mhm.
that's very helpful in this. Have a service mindset. So that's the biggest thing with us, guys. Like at the end of the day, we are service providers, is what we do, right? We do haircuts, we do colors, we do shades, we do things. But one thing I always like to tell everyone is, yeah, we cut hair, yeah, we color hair, yeah, we do this and that. But at the end of the day, we provide a service, and I feel like our real job title should probably be confidence booster, because that's exactly what we do. We build people's confidence, right? But we do it through providing a service. So you have to have that service mindset. So
Absolutely.
you can't, if you have a bad day, you can't bring that bad morning, that spilled coffee into the service, because the minute you do that, now your customer's like, man, I came over here to get pampered, not to hear
Mm-hmm.
about you spilling coffee on your shirt. So
Yeah.
make plans for future appointments. This is another thing that I encourage my customers whenever they finish, especially newer customers, is like, hey, how far out are your books open? And I'll be like, oh, I can actually set it up right now for you. Did you want to come back in 2 weeks? Is 3 o'clock okay for you as well? Okay, boom, boom. I go in there real quick, set it. I said, and sometimes I'll tell them I can actually set it reoccurring. Did you know that Booksy allows me to do that? Now you can come in. How often do you get your haircut? From what I saw, it looks like every 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, about every month. Okay, cool. Is every fourth Friday at 2 o'clock work for you? Yeah. Okay, I'll just set it reoccurring for you. You'll get a 24-hour notice. Okay, great. So that's something that's huge, is setting up the future appointments. I
And
know.
it, oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and the other way you could look at this is not just pre-booking, although that is huge for growing your client count, and that is one of the three drivers for client count, but also for making plans for what that next service is going to actually look like. So in the salon and in the barbering industry, you could say, hey, your next appointment is going to be, in July, it's going to be hot, maybe we'll go shorter then. Or in the salon world, maybe we're going to go blonder then, or we're going to go darker for the fall, or we're going to try a new shorter haircut because you're starting a new job. Really getting people excited about the next appointment, but also adding on services to the next appointment, and I'm sure we're going to get there because it's another square on the 9 grid here, but we don't always have time to do an add-on in the moment, especially in the barbering world. But if we do plan for it, that's still planting a seed for add-ons in the future. And Rick's going to talk about booking time and charging for that, but just keep your client seeing a picture of what their appointments are going to look like in the future.
Yep, exactly. So the next one is craving something new, pop of color or gloss. So this is just something that we want to talk to the customer about, similar to making the future appointments. And that this will obviously be in the consultation. Hey, did you want to try something new? Are you looking for a change? Minor things like that. For guys, it could be growing a beard, taking off the beard. For women, it could be, like you said, spring's coming. We have to lighten up the hair. Winter's coming. Let's darken it up. Minor things like that. Minor things that can play a big role in the profit margins of it.
And again, it helps us grow, but it helps us grow our sales, but it also serves our clients. It's us offering something new, not them deciding they want something new and getting confused and thinking that they have to go somewhere else to get that something new.
Yep. And then, another add-on is like I mentioned, while you're here, and obviously this will be if you guys have enough time, because some of them take a little more time than others. But while you're here, hey, did you want to try that hot towel shave? I know last time you came in, you saw me doing when you asked what it was. Did you have time for that? Because I've got some time right now. You know what? Yeah, go ahead. Let's do that. Or the beard treatment. I've been doing a lot of these beard treatments too. So, where we just kind of add moisture, it's kind of like a deep conditioning for the hair, something similar to the beard. And that doesn't take much time. The charcoal mask is actually super fast. One thing that I actually do is that at the beginning, because it takes a little bit of time to dry. So the charcoal mask is an added service, but I charge $15, $15, and I'll only do this area, right? Whenever it's just the add-on, because I'll say, hey, did you want to do the charcoal mask? And he's like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I said, okay. So I'll start it at the beginning of the service, so that way at the end of the service, it's ready to peel off. So I didn't do anything but spend a couple minutes in the beginning of the service to add it.
So that's an add-on where you made an extra $15 during that service, and
during the service was already allotted.
Extra time at all.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And then book time if needed, but charge correctly. This is and actually about 6 weeks ago, I just added a service, and I called it the transformation haircut. So in the notes to it, it says if it's been more than 8 weeks since your last haircut, then I need you to book this one because I'm charging you about $15 more, but I'm also adding about 20 minutes towards the service, which allows me to perfect the haircut in the proper manner. I haven't had any kickback since it is a new service. A lot of my customers didn't know about it. And just actually this morning, someone booked for him and his son. And I just shot him a quick text and said, hey, I just noticed you booked today. Has it been more than 8 weeks? And he put, laugh out loud, why are you calling me out? Right. And I know it's been more than 8 weeks because I see it on my app. I see it on the Booksy app. He hasn't came in about 10 or 12. So I said, well, to better serve you and to allow me the proper time needed, I've added a new service. I'll be switching over your haircut to the other one. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. He's like, okay, cool. I appreciate it. I switched it over and he's like, oh, nice. 45 minutes now. And I'm like, yeah, because I had been rushing through the service to try to get it done. Because when there's a lot more hair, it takes more time. And he's
Absolutely.
like, okay, cool. He was like, okay, I'm excited for you to pamper me a little bit longer. What? And I literally, it is $33 for a regular haircut. And I will charge $49 for the transformation one. So it's like a $13 increase. For 15 minutes added to the service. So this is something that you guys can think about possibly doing as well. I know women,
great
it's
idea.
not the norm. Yeah, women's not the norm for them to come every 3 to 4 weeks. But on your side, the salon side, I'm sure you guys can think of something that could possibly help increase it, like something similar to that.
What we do at our salon is we don't have a transformation type haircut, but we have an add-on menu, and our add-on menu is always advertised. So when they book online for an appointment, if we have every add-on that they could have with, say, a haircut is there. So a conditioning treatment, a gloss, something like that. So they have the option to book that. But then we also ask them when they're in the chair, and I'll take this one square. Ask about feelings on condition, hair, scalp, skin. We need to, again, come from a place of service and be curious. And just like we were about products, same with add-ons, and ask, how's your skin feeling? How's your hair feeling? Because that creates an opportunity for us to, one, serve our client, and two, do an add-on, which is going to help fuel our average ticket driver or our average ticket KPI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last one is always offer something. Always. This is, very similar to the product. We always want to ask them if they want to buy a product. We always want to ask them if they want to add another service, simply because we've got the time. They possibly have the money. And the worst they can say is no. The easiest one for me as a male barber, as a barber in general, is what I do for the guys, because it takes me probably 5 to 7 minutes, is I'll always say, hey, did you want me to touch up your eyebrows for you while you were here? Because I see that some guys' eyebrows are all over the place, or they got that one eyebrow, right? Mm-hmm. And some of them are like, no, I'm good. Okay, cool. And some are like, you know what? My girl was just telling me that these were looking pretty bad. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it, So that's something that I majority of the times offer all the time.
That's awesome. And again, just remembering, you can set a personal goal for yourself. Like, this is a lot to infuse into your business after listening to one webinar, but write it down so you don't forget it, but set yourself a goal. Maybe your goal is going to be that you're going to offer one thing to every client that you have today or later this week. It's going to be getting into the practice of asking, because just like Rick was saying in the beginning, if you don't ask, then they're going to ask somebody else, and that's not going to help you grow your average ticket, and it could hurt your client count. All right, let's move on to our last driver, which is pricing. And this is a huge topic that a lot of people get stuck on, but it's really important for us to be thoughtful and intentional about our pricing. Why? So we get paid what we're worth. We have to be able to be comfortable with our prices and use them as a tool to help grow our average ticket and in turn grow our business. It creates room for growth for us if we have a pricing schedule for growth. Say every year we increase our prices, or maybe you work in a salon or a barber shop that has levels for the stylists or barbers, a tier system. So it creates room for growth for us that way. Now, for the business, pricing is important because it has to be consistent. So if we can create consistency between service providers, and if there are different prices because of a tier system or an owner pricing thing, we have to be clear about it so that we don't catch anybody off guard. It also creates the business with a building, with a path for us to continue to grow our stylists. So as an owner, I know that I can create a financial growth path for my stylists because they have a price increase at each promotion. Now, for the guests, it's so important because they need to know what to expect at checkout. Have you ever been in one of those positions where maybe you did kind of a lot in one appointment, but you didn't give them a price before you did that service, and you get up to the front, you're getting ready to check them out, and you look at your price and feel a little bit of anxiety? Maybe you're worried that your customer is going to have some sticker shock, and maybe you back out of your pricing because of that. So if we give them a heads up and we let them know what to expect when they're checking out at the end of their service, it's going to help us feel more comfortable, and it's not going to catch our guest off guard. And that is going to build trust in the business. So let's look at some best practices for how to go about pricing. Rick, I'll have you take us through the 9 grid again.
Yeah, so number one, charge appropriately. If you use extra color, you use extra time, if you did an extra service, make sure you charge. But like she just said, make sure you let them know about that as well. We don't want to give them a sticker shock when the total comes up. Because I know when I was a brand new barber, that was very similar to me. If I did a haircut and then they asked for the hot towel shave and then, added other services, I looked, I was like, whoa, this is like they came in for a $20 service and they're leaving with like $75. And sometimes I'd be like, it's 60, and because I was kind of nervous and because I didn't inform them of it, just freaked me out. And then ultimately they gave me a $20 tip on top of that. I was like, oh, they could have afforded it. Like it wasn't even part of their issue. It was part of my issue.
Mm-hmm. So that sticker shock anxiety is real. And I have seen so many times my own team members, they'll short themselves in other ways. They'll be like, well, we're not going to charge the long hair price because her hair was fine. And they'll start backing out of it because they don't want to be uncomfortable in that moment of delivering the price. Oh, it's going to be $300 today. They get real quiet, can't look them in the eye. We don't want to create that. We don't want to create that situation. We want to be able to be confident when we get up to the, the desk, or if you're doing a chairside checkout, we want to be confident in that moment so that our customers feel confident with us.
Yep, very true. And like we just mentioned here, no surprises. Price quote before every service. Once again, if they ask you for something or you offered something, just let them, oh yeah, no doubt. Like that's $22. Okay, cool. And don't say that's $22. Is that okay? Like don't, because then you're kind of asking them a question. Because what if they say no, that's not okay? What are you going to do? Okay, I'll do it for 15. Like no, then the answer is then the service won't get done. Mm-hmm. So that no surprises. Oh, sure. You want me to shampoo your hair? That'll be $17. Let's go. I didn't give them an option to back out of it. Now, if they back out of it, then that's in their choice. Oh, 17, you know what? I think I'll do that next time, because let's just be a reality. Most of them won't say no. They'll say something similar to that. Yeah. Like, okay, great. So just make sure to have that. Mm-hmm. Create a clear and easy to read pricing menu. And that's what I have in my barbershop is because most of the time men's things are pretty simple. I understand in the salon it could be a little, you're going to do highlights. Okay, do you have shoulder length hair or your hair past mid back? Obviously that pricing varies. So just put on there, I'm assuming, highlights starting at $50 plus with a little plus sign because, it's going to vary on the length of the hair. And feel free to put that in parentheses on the menu if you like. Starting at $50 plus, hair length varies, varies on hair length.
One thing that we do is we have a window. So at my salon, instead of saying, highlights 100 plus, it's, partial highlights 100 to 150. That way they still have that clear expectation. They know where it could end. So there's no mystery with what that plus sign means. But it helps them know what they're getting into, which again, helps you be more confident when you're delivering the price at the end of the service, or even when you're delivering the price quote or estimate in the beginning of the service.
Very true. Very true. So
Rick, you told a story to me about your pricing menu when we were prepping for this, where you had the owner pricing. Would you share that?
Yeah. So right here, and it actually falls in the next square, is don't be afraid to charge your worth. So as I traveled, being a new educator traveling the U.S., talking to a lot of stylists and salon owners and barbershop owners as well, but I noticed that this was more with the stylists and the salon owners. We would small talk and we're like, "What do you charge for a haircut?" It's like, "Oh, my salon charges 45, but I charge 65." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, why do you charge 65?" And then she'd be like, "Oh, because I own the salon." I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, she kind of looked at me like, "No, what do you mean?" And she explained to me that as an owner of the salon, it's the norm and typical to charge more. And I'm like, "Really? Why do you think that is?" She's like, as a barbershop owner, people walk in, they see you're the alpha dog or know that you're the owner. They request you simply because of that. I'm like, "You're right." She's like, "Well, because of that, we hold the value. We bring what we'd like to think more value, more expertise in the industry and in the business aspect of it also. Because of that, we charge a little bit more." And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that. So I increased my haircut prices $10 more per service above what my barbershop was at. And I didn't do it the right way, but that's a whole nother story. and then so now I have the price menu in the barbershop. It literally says price menu, or menu is what we put. We kind of made it seem like a restaurant. We didn't put price list, we put menu. And the services we provide, which are the exact same services I provide, and the price that they are. But at the very bottom of that price list, in parentheses, I put the prices above do not reflect that of the owner. And I never had that there. But one time, years ago, I had a 25, 35-minute slot open, and I took a walk-in in. It's rare that I take walk-ins, but I had some time and the barbershop was packed, so I wanted to help the guys out. I took the walk-in in, and when it was all said and done, he gives me $25. And I said, "Oh, it's 33. And he said, "Excuse me?" I said, "It's 33. He's like, "No, I come here once a month. It's always been 23. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, I'm the owner, so I charge a little more." He said, "I don't care who cuts my hair." And I said, "You know what? Okay. Thank you for coming to my barbershop. I appreciate the $2 tip. Have a good day." And he kind of looked at me like, "Forget you, bro," right? And he left. He did ultimately come back. But that's what I said. I have to make sure that people are aware of the fact that I'm the owner, and if you get a haircut with me, it's going to be more. So that's why I put that at the bottom. And now what I actually do, if I have time for a walk-in, I'll be like, "Hey, are you ready?" It's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, well, I'm the owner of the barbershop. I charge a little bit more." They're like, "How much more?" I was like, $10 more from whatever that list is. "Oh, I'm straight. Let's go." "Okay, great." So, and some of them are like, "Oh, no, you know what? I'll wait." I was like, "Okay, great. No worries. Thank you."
So it's just a perfect example. Like, that story is a perfect example of why we've got to be careful to not have any surprises with either clear menu or by talking about it, like you just mentioned, before you start the service. So
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I'd like to mention on regards to don't be afraid to charge your worth. This is the part where, line. It's another box. Let's move on to what you were going to say.
Oh, okay. Well, let's jump into evaluate pricing as new trends come out, and then we'll finish with that one, because I think that's a really powerful one to finish with. So evaluating your pricing as new trends come out. This is huge. Our industry has changed dramatically with the Instagram and Pinterest. As a colorist, I've been doing hair for 17 years, and 17 years ago, people would sit in my chair and they'd say, "I would like to be blonder, darker, redder." Like, that was it. The expectation wasn't, "I would like this piece of blonde right here to fall like this." Those types of trends that we're seeing now, yes, we use the same type of application, say a highlight or a balayage or even a haircut, but they take a lot more work. And so as these new trends come out that are more complex, we have to reevaluate our pricing and make sure that we are pricing appropriately, not just based on time. Time is a big factor, but not just on time, but on the expertise it takes to be, and the education and the training that it takes to be able to deliver that service with a high quality way. And so for our industry, you know, or for the salon industry, it was the balayage, the highlights, the baby lights, this becoming super blonde in one session. We really had to evaluate how we were approaching that so that we could make sure that we were charging for our worth. And barbering has changed dramatically in the last few years too, and I'm sure, and I'll let you speak to that, but haircuts are a lot more intricate than they were before, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, like it says, evaluate the pricing as the trends come out. A couple years ago, the hard part came into play, where we were actually carving in, etching in, detailing the actual hard part. Before it was a natural part. Now we actually put that in. And a lot of barbers, unfortunately, they just throw it in. Oh, it's part of the haircut. No, that's not part of the haircut. That's extra.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, I actually charged $7 for that and mentioned it. I was out of town this past week and mentioned it to other barbers that we were there with, and they're like, "You charge $7 for that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" I was like, "I charge 2, or I charge 3, or I don't even charge. It's included." And I'm like, "No dice." And they're like, "But it takes like a minute and a half." I'm like, "Yeah, it does, but it took me about a year and a half to learn how to do it in a minute and a half."
Absolutely. And you know what? When somebody messes up a hard part, I've seen that a couple times. Not having that happen to you is worth way more than $7 because a bad hard part. I mean, you don't want me doing that to anybody.
Yeah,
I'll send everybody to you, Rick. I can't do that, but
you go from
want to be messing around with a bad one.
Yeah, you go from a 1-lane street to a 3-way highway.
That's what I've seen. I've seen that.
Yep.
It's terrible.
Yep. So not only that, with the black mask got real popular. The nose waxing's real popular. So as you said, as it shows on social media, then the customers, hey, do you do this? Do you do that? And I'll be like, yes, it will actually be added on my menu this weekend, so that they make sure to schedule it for the next. And I just add things as the trend comes, and as the trend fades away, I kind of remove it a little bit.
Absolutely. So moving on to the next, know when it's time. That should say know when it's time for a price increase. Because if you've been fully booked and you are, right at competitor pricing or maybe even below, it's time. And those conversations can be hard to have. And Rick, you could probably give me some input about this too. It's hard. And when we raise our prices, we might lose some customers, but we are in this to serve our guests, but also to grow a healthy, thriving, sustainable business for ourselves. And so if we know when it's time, then we're going to be able to make that move and do it confidently. So Rick, what do you think about knowing when it's time? What do you look at when it's time to maybe consider a price increase?
So my rule of thumb is I actually got it from another barber who taught a class very similar to this in regards to raising the increase in prices, was 80%. If you are 80% booked, X amount of the days that you work, then it's time for an increase. And it doesn't have to be, sometimes it doesn't have to be a huge increase. Sometimes it can be a very, very small, minute increase. But that small, minute increase, that $3 times 15 customers a day, times 5 days a week, times, X amount of days a month, adds up to probably a car payment.
It does. It adds up fast.
Yeah. So that's the rule of thumb I've always stuck with is 80%. I try not to do an increase more than once a year, although sometimes that increase, during COVID, I did an increase. Prior to COVID, I had just increased my prices, and then we got shut down. And then when we came back, I said, I'm going to increase my prices again. And people said, you're wrong. You shouldn't do that. I was like, no, I've been shut down for 8 weeks. I think if I do this, it'll be perfect timing because the customers won't even care what the price is no more because they just want a haircut. They want the services that I provide. Yeah. So I think, if anything, this is a perfect opportunity for me to increase it with no questions asked.
One silver lining of COVID is that people realized how important their barbers and stylists were to them and how important their hair was to them. And it's not a matter of gouging, it's a matter of charging your worth and people understanding that worth. And when it comes to understanding that worth, you have to understand it for yourself too. So why do you deserve this price increase? Have a little pep talk with yourself before you roll this out. Tell yourself, well, I have X amount of years of experience. I have done this many classes this year and over however many years since your last price increase. And also the cost of goods, like hair color goes up. And for me, hair color goes up every year. If I don't put that into the equation when I'm creating my pricing, then there is a missed opportunity there and I might end up cutting into my profit margin. So have that conversation with yourself so that when you're delivering that information to your clients or your guests, that you feel confident. And if they question you, which they usually don't, but if they question you, you'll be able to say, well, I've been doing this for 17 years, and this last year I invested in 8 classes. You guys are investing your time right now learning about your industry. So I've invested my time in this education so that I'm able to better serve you. Know those things going into it so that you can feel confident. And really working towards a price increase, we've talked about this. So I want to jump straight to don't be afraid to charge your worth and have Rick kind of finish us up here with that.
Yeah, so that's the huge one that kind of hit me a lot when I first started cutting hair. When I first started cutting hair, guys, I was charging $7 a haircut. Now I charge $33 for a haircut. That doesn't include any facial hair. That doesn't include anything like that other than the haircut itself. So obviously with time, I've increased it. And the norm, what I do is I increase it about $2 to $3 every single year. $2 to $3. Every service that I do is increased $2 to $3. A lot of people are like, then that's kind of, because what I hear in the norm of the barber side of it, oh, I'm going to do $5 next year, or I've heard as much as $10, and I'm like, whoa, that's a bit high. That would be the equivalent of you going to a restaurant and you always get that same burger and that same beer, and you paid $18, but the next time you went, it was $28. And I was like, what would you do? They're like, whoa, I didn't think about it like that. I was like, exactly. Now, if you maybe add a small service within that service, they may see the value of that extra $5 or $10. Just like if this burger joint said, oh yeah, we no longer use American cheese. Now we use sharp cheddar smoked cheese. Now I'm a cheese guy, so I know all about this stuff, right? And I'm like, ooh, sharp smoked cheddar. I know that stuff costs like $15 a pound compared to American cheese, right? So I know stuff like that, right? So the same thing with that. That's what I did whenever I would increase my price. Every time I increase my price, I try to do something small. Now I just do it. But at one point it was, you know what? I'm going to start putting a hot towel to clean off the extra hair off of them, a warm towel. And that's what I did. At one point it was, I added a little 2-minute massage with my wall massager on their back, on their upper shoulder area, right? Before the haircut was done. I always tried to add something real minute, 1 to 2 minute service. So that way they see the value. Oh, he increased it $3, but he also gave me this. And I have some customers be like, well, what if I don't want that? Can I pay you the $30 instead? I was like, no, whether you get it or not, it's still the same price. All right, then give it to me.
Yeah, and remember that the value that your client receives is you, and that you invested your time and your energy and your attention to continuing your education, to continuing to develop your technical skill set so that you can serve them the best that you can. That's why they come back. So don't be afraid, because you're worth it. Yep. Now, we're getting to the end of our time here, so we're going to wrap up, but thank you so much for joining us. And I threw it in the chat too, but if there's one thing you take away from this, is just remember to keep it simple by driving growth in your average ticket by focusing on products, add-ons, and pricing. And if you want to learn more about Qnity, I can, I'll put it up right here, excuse me. Check out qnityinc.com. And remember to stay passionate and ignite that passion every day, because you might feel really fired up right now because you had Rick cheering you on and, you know, us telling you to do it, you're worth it. Remind yourself that you're worth it every day so that you can stay as passionate as this little guy in this picture, and drive growth and continue to thrive and be prosperous in your business. So ignite that passion every day, and check out Qnity at qnityinc.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at Qnity Inc. Erin just put the Instagram handle in the chat. Rick, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great having you and hearing from you. And thank you to everybody at Booksy and Wall and Qnity for having us today.
Yeah, for sure, guys. And once again, don't forget. So I'm about to give you the information now so you could possibly win that cordless magic clip. So here's what I need you guys to do. We dropped a lot of gems today. We dropped tons of gems on you guys, right? They're just falling all over the place, right? So what I need you guys to do now is to go to Booksy Biz, our Instagram at Booksy Biz, and you'll see the photo of myself and Candace on there. What I need you to do is just comment one gem, just one gem that one positive information, one tool that you got out of the session that we just provided you guys. Just go over there, comment one simple thing. Oh, you helped me about to increase my haircut prices. Whatever it is that you took away from this, go drop it there. And then here, within the next day or so, someone at Booksy will go ahead and draw a winner from the comment. So you got to make sure to comment. If you don't comment, you don't win. So make sure to comment, and then we'll go ahead and get these clippers shipped out to you guys. Good luck to everyone, and thank you guys for staying tuned, and have a good day.
Can't wait to see your comments. Bye.